Okay, so 5 things, no profanity, right?
No profanity. I ran it by Sean, and Sean said it was a worthwhile.
Who is Sean Capri? Sean has nothing to do with this show. This is not Sean's show. This is not Xbox Drive. This is not GamerCast. This is not
I'm
Patreon
just saying
Pants.
he said it was worthwhile. That's all I'm saying.
Of course you go to Sean. What is up, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Nintendo Talk. I am Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, joined by the inkiest inker in all the land. There was a time when that meant something. Doesn't mean anything anymore. What's up, Mark? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Oh, I am very well. Let's try this again.
Good.
The nerdiest CaNERDian in all the land. How about that?
There we go. I'll take that one. All right. Yeah. A little more topical anyway.
Yeah, well, you know, if people knew our background, they would know what that first one meant. You know what I mean? Like Ink Strike Podcast. I was trying to pull off of that, and it just didn't work that well. I
appreciated it.
You know, going into Splatoon 2, we had all the hype. We had the podcast. We were set to set the world on fire. And then I don't know what happened. We just couldn't get it going.
Whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, that was all over the place.
That was good
yeah,
stuff.
anyway.
That was good stuff. But I will say this, just a little before we get into the whole thing. Joe would be so proud of me because I've actually just started playing rank play, and that's all I play now.
Awesome.
You remember how I used to give him crap all the time?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you're a murderer, man. That's all you want to do is kill people. But that's all I do now. I just play, and I'm like, oh my god, I love this. I love this mode. Yeah. So, for those that don't know, before we jump into everything and what we're doing here today, just let people know who you are, what you do, how they can find you, all that stuff.
Okay, well, my name's Mark. You may know me as the CaNERDian Gamer, and that's where you can find me on Twitter. I'm formerly of the Warp Whistle podcast, and like Bobby said, a couple of different projects with Bobby, with the community. We've been all, working together and doing things all in the same little community for a couple of years now. Yeah. And now I'm part of the Secret Friends Unite co-op mode podcast. Secret Friends Unite, little spin-off video game podcast every 2 weeks over on their feed there. So it's some fun stuff.
Pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I was very happy to see you went to something because I was very disappointed when the Warp Whistle shut down and ended. That was my favorite podcast above every other podcast. That was my favorite podcast, and you know that. I've told you numerous times.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it was hard to shut it down, but my brother left the show, and that was a good decision for him. Yeah. And I just didn't feel right keeping it going any longer than I did. I tried it on my own for a little bit, and I didn't have that same feel to it. But that's the great thing is taking that little break, and taking that little break and jumping back into something. Even if it's slightly different or completely different, I feel that reinvigorated kind of sense of excitement with co-op mode. And with another new project I'm doing called Uncharted History, which is completely not related to video games. Yeah. And we launched the first episode of that one last week on YouTube. And it's been getting a decent amount of local attention. It's all about like local, interesting little forgotten history places. So second episode. I was hoping to have it edited this weekend and ended up doing some other stuff and didn't have time to do it. But got some other cool footage and some contact this weekend. So another story in the works. But anyway, it's a fun little side project too.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
That's amazing. So what you're doing here today is I had so much fun doing the E3 prediction show that as E3 was happening, my mind just kept racking. Like, I don't want this to stop. I want to keep doing this. So what I did was, for this weekend, this past weekend, I sat down with Toby and I was like, I'm not happy with Nintendo PlayStation Podcast. He wasn't happy with Nintendo PlayStation Podcast. We both kind of just wanted to talk about Nintendo. And I'm like, listen, let's end that show. You merge with this show. And then, essentially, we'll do our typical show once a week. And then I get to do special editions for 2 weeks. and just cram it into the feed and let people. So what's going to happen is, and if you're listening to Mark's episode, go back because Mark is right after Toby. So Toby will actually launch this particular series, and he'll launch every series as we move forward. But Toby will launch this. This is the first one after Toby, and the idea is, for this round, this month, it's going to be Breath of the Wild 2. I think everybody was kind of floored that we're getting a sequel. I think a lot of people thought we might get more DLC, we might get an expansion pack or something. I don't think anybody saw a sequel coming this quickly. But with that, I thought, man, what are 5 things that people would want from a sequel? What are the 5 things that maybe you didn't like with Breath of the Wild that you would like to get fine-tuned, or maybe there's things that you loved in Breath of the Wild and you want to elaborate and open it up a little further. So that's what this is. This is where we are. So Mark is here this week, and the idea is, just like the E3 ones, Mark will give an idea. We'll kind of elaborate on that, break it out, talk about it, and then 2, 3, 4, and then the final one. So, Mark,
Yes, sir.
What is your first idea?
Well, the first one's pretty obvious, I think. For anyone that played Breath of the Wild, there was a glaring omission, and there was something very broken in that game, and really something that kind of took it from that perfect 10 and knocked it down a couple of steps, and that is, for Breath of the Wild 2, I want them to let me pet the effing dogs. And I promised you I wouldn't curse, so that's as close as we'll get. Let me pet the dogs. They're good boys, Bobby. They deserve to know it.
That you probably should have cursed.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Okay. I did not see this one coming at all. At all. I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God. I did not see the dogs, the petting the dogs. Well, you do get to pet the horse, right? You like rub them down and stuff, and like, whoa, like you kind of pet the horse. So you would think, like, yeah, you pet the dog.
Just go up and pet the dog.
Why did I pick you? Why did I decide to go? I want Mark Carabin to be a part of this. Why?
You know that's a bad idea.
Now I definitely know. I had reservations in my mind, and now I'm saying to myself, what the F were you thinking, Bobby? Okay. So I don't even know what to say. Like, okay, what the hell?
Look, I don't think
Are
it's
you
that
serious?
difficult.
Wait, are you really serious?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you know, there are Twitter feeds like "Can you pet the dog?" There so many people want to be able to tell these good boys. You can give them food and they'll take you on a little treasure hunt. But once they find a treasure for you, you can't be like, yeah, good dog. You know, I think that's an important thing. And I think if we're talking sequels and we're talking what to improve and tiny little things, I was half joking before when I said, you know, one glaring omission, because this game really had everything. It was expansive. It was amazing. It was incredible what you could do with the physics and how you could manipulate the world and make the world do exactly what you wanted it to in so many other regards.
Yeah.
There are very few things that they missed. And I feel like that's one of them.
You're definitely
tiny
right.
little things like that, right? Being able to go up and pet your horse or kind of rub its snout or something like that. Just those tiny little world building things. Yeah. And I use pet the dogs as an example, but I think it's those tiny little things that, you know, might have taken an extra week or an extra month or an extra day to program that in or to build the animations or whatever, that they didn't have time. They needed to get this game out for the Switch launch and for a certain time period, and they didn't have that development cycle. Engine's done. World's built. Yeah. You know, pick these tiny little things and let me pet the dogs.
Let's take it a step further. Like you're using that term or that phrase for this, but I think where you're leading with this, and I would like to expand upon that just a little bit, because I think that's a novel idea, and I think it's actually kind of cool, and I get what you're saying. Like, you're trying to be like, hey, you did a good job. It'd be also kind of cool if you could actually keep the dogs, right? Because you can have Wolf Link, right? And Wolf Link can go with you and hunt and all that stuff. So it would have been kind of cool if you were able to train a dog to stay by your side and do your stuff. But there's something that I think that I would kind of like to see happen as well, is be able to lure other animals over to you by feeding them. Because you can feed dogs. It would be kind of cool if there was like a moose in the woods, in the mountains, and you just were trying to lure it to you. Not to do anything, but like, you know, just to have them come around you. And like, it'd be also kind of cool, because I'm sure you have too. I've tried to ride everything. I've tried to ride bears, which I have.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
That's a real fun one. The skeleton horse, I rode that one. I've never got the mystical horse, like the unicornish one up in the. Like that one is crazy. That's the one up by Iwata's little pond. That's the homage or the you know, the paying respects to Iwata, that pond thing. So yeah, I would love to do something like that, but I can now respect that, like petting the dogs. But I think it's not so much the petting the dogs; it's the fine tuning, the Nintendo eyes. You know how Nintendo just does things sometimes. It just pushes things over the edge that makes you go like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! I want more of this." Like, this is so cool. This is something I never thought I would do in a game. It's that little quirkiness, that little coolness that Nintendo does. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I can respect that.
But more importantly than any of that world building, just let me pet the dogs. Like that's where it all. I mean, that's what it comes back to.
Okay.
Just there are good boys, and they deserve to know they're good boys.
Boy. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Okay. So the. Good God. The next one that you have. What is the next one you have?
I think it would be perfectly okay to not play as Link in this game and give Zelda her own legend, as it were. We saw them both in the trailer.
Yeah.
I think we've had a series full of the Legend of Link games. Let's have Link go missing or get caught up or have to be rescued or whatever, and let's play as Zelda. I want that.
It was funny because I've said this on numerous podcasts leading into this particular moment here. Even last night I was on with Run Jump Stomp Bill, and so what I said to him was, what I feel that Nintendo might be doing here is, because I felt like the Breath of the Wild original was very much like the original Zelda. There were so many moments that just took you back, like the Lionels. You've never seen a Lionel again in any other game except for the original Zelda. There's moments where you're walking on the peaks and it's like from the instruction booklet and all those things. So I kind of want them to follow suit a little bit and take a lead with Zelda 2. And in Zelda 2, Princess Zelda is kind of put to sleep and knocked out. And Link is trying to resurrect her. And all the henchmen are trying to kill Link because if they take his blood and pour it on Ganon's bones, it'll resurrect Ganon and bring him back to life. So that's kind of what I would like to see happen. But as a twist, what I'd like to see is you pick. Do you want to play as Zelda or do you want to play as Link? And whoever you pick, the other one gets knocked out and is put to sleep. And then the other one, the job is to try to bring them back to life. Because I think then it allows you, it could do one of two things. It could have you playing and experiencing two different games, kind of. One through Zelda, and see how people, because maybe people treat Zelda differently than they do Link. You know, and just think about when you played Breath of the Wild the first time, the Gerudo, they wouldn't let a male in, but Princess Zelda could just walk right through. You know what I mean? So you'd have little things like that, I think, which would be kind of cool.
And I mean, she's a princess, so she's going to be allowed in pretty much anywhere. She's going to have that kind of royal, she's not going to be able to go anywhere without people recognizing her. So it makes kind of sneaking in someplace maybe a little bit trickier where, Link can kind of disguise himself a little bit more and kind of hide. Yeah, that would be cool. I initially going into this, I was thinking, look, we just put 200 plus hours into a Link story. I'm done with them for now. Give me Zelda. But I respect that. I respect the, pick your path, pick your story, and again, if this is maybe kind of a smaller, more focused sequel, that may work in extending the amount of time we put into it. It might be 100 hours of a Link story, but then you can put in 100 hours of Zelda and have slight variations.
Well, because for me, and I'm going to disagree slightly with you on this, is I don't feel like Breath of the Wild was a telling of a Link story. I felt like the entire time of Breath of the Wild 1, that was a telling of Zelda coming to age.
Oh, for sure.
And I totally felt, we've had conversations about this. I felt like, if anything, anybody that felt like it was Link saving her is sadly mistaken. That wasn't the case. This was an absolute tale of her saving him. I'm not going to get into spoilers too deep because, that's the extent of what I'll say. But so I wouldn't mind seeing, like, I know I controlled Link in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's
but it
all
wasn't.
I meant.
It was the Legend of Zelda. It was absolutely Legend of Zelda. And
I agree with you there for sure.
Yeah.
It was what I meant was 200 hours behind Link.
Yes.
Is basically following or controlling him.
And I think where the difference of this is, and I think people have lost this mindset as years have gone on, is Link is just a tool in order to project what exactly. It's to connect you to the game. Like, that's why Link doesn't have a voice. That's why Link is very just, very non, gender-esque. Like, he's just very, he kind of looks feminine, kind of looks masculine. He's got a mix of the both. So I get why they've done what they've done. I just know that there was so much clamoring before Breath of the Wild that it kind of, from a Nintendo aspect, I just think, just do it. Give people what they want.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind seeing, like, maybe if she does take the lead, maybe you start to see her take the way of the Sheikah, and kind of go that route, because we do know that she was Sheik in one iteration of the game. Yeah. So, and I think Sheik is just badass.
Absolutely.
Probably one of my favorite characters. In Smash, I love playing as Sheik. In Hyrule Warriors, I love playing as Sheik. So to me, it's like, man, give me a little bit of time with Sheik again, because she's just ramps it up a level,
Yeah. So. And that kind of thing, faster gameplay, but maybe not with some of the strengths that Link has, again, could really open up two completely branching paths with two completely different games that you want to go back and replay, because there are certain things that fast ninja Sheik can do that Link can't, and certain things that Link can do that she can't. So I love that idea.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Okay, so idea number 3. What do you have?
Seriously, let me pet the effing dogs.
Get out of here! You are not bringing that back again. Come on now.
No, I would like if you look at some of the past Zelda games. A lot of the past Zelda games have dealt with a time mechanic. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask really played it up as a sequel and really played with that time mechanic from Ocarina. I thought Skyward Sword did a really cool one, and most people that I talked to didn't stick with the game long enough to experience some of those really cool mechanics. So I think bring that back. Bring back a cool time jump mechanic, whether it happens like that. I'm thinking kind of Titanfall 2-esque, if you ever played the story mode of that game. If you haven't, go back and try it. I'm thinking something like that. I'd love to see some more time manipulation, because we didn't really get that aside from flashbacks with Breath of the Wild. Yeah. So I think a sequel is the time to really go back and have some fun with things that they left out. Again, things that they left out of Breath of the Wild 1, and time was one of those things that feels like such a Zelda element that was missing in that game. So I'd love to see something where you go to a dilapidated Lon Lon Ranch or something like that, and there's some kind of mechanic in there that you can instantly jump back and you see it fully flourished. Maybe you can interact a little bit with it. Maybe you can fully, whatever they want to do. But I'd love some sort of time jump mechanic like Titanfall 2, Skyward Sword, whatever.
Yeah. The I mean, there's absolutely they could do this, and it would be kind of cool to be able to, because if you think about Link to the Past, they were kind of moving between the worlds, so to speak, between the Dark World. But I think that was kind of a parallel time. That wasn't different time periods. It was just a matter of they were floating through, either going Dark World or Light World. I kind of like that. Like, man, they've never brought that mechanic back again. You know, they tinker. Well,
Twilight Princess.
Well, Link Between Worlds, they did that as well. But like to have that, yeah, Twilight Princess did do that. They did do that.
And this trailer gave me such a Twilight Princess vibe.
Yeah, man.
I'm wondering if that's the mechanic rather than a time jump. I'm wondering if they are going to go Light World, Dark World. Yeah. Back with Midna's folk and that kind of thing. Yeah. The music really gave me a Twilight Princess vibe in this trailer.
Yeah, when I heard that trailer, that was what the music started, and I was like, wait a minute, this is Twilight Princess? But no. And then I saw the dragon, and I was like, oh my god, it's Breath of the Wild. But I thought at that point, I thought expansion. Then they used with Breath of the Wild 2, and I was like, oh my god. And I never even, everything was happening so quick, I never even realized, like, she had short hair, any of that. So, which tells me potentially there's a time jump, which I hope. I hope it's like 5 years in the future, where at least that way you would think in your mind, like, things have advanced. The towns have kind of been rebuilt. There's more towns. There's more people. Like, that would be kind of cool. But I can get behind that kind of time jump. I don't want it to be like Majora's Mask, though. I don't want to do, like, I don't want to have everything in a 24-hour period, and you're playing and go back. I hated that. Because it felt like everything you did was just a waste. Like, oh, I did all this stuff, and then, okay, now I got to do it again. It's like Groundhog's Day, the movie.
No, I want this to be something more of a mechanic that's either built into specific locations, kind of like it was in Titanfall, or maybe it's an item that you can jump back and forth in time. And there's another game that's like that, and I can't remember what it is, what it's called, but I remember it's like a first-person game, and you can go in and out of time, and there might be a key in one location, but the building's destroyed in another, but you have to kind of go back. And I wish I could remember what that game is, but anyway, I think they could play it like that, where it's not as restricting, because one of the great things with Breath of the Wild was you were unrestricted to just go about the world. And I'd hate to see this sequel with some sort of weird arbitrary 3-day or 24-hour cycle restriction or something like that. That'd drive me crazy.
Yeah, that would be same with me. Yeah. What are we up to? 4 now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Well, that was 3, I guess. So we're up to number 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So for number 4, I would like, we're seeing in the trailer, looks like they're resurrecting, might be Ganondorf, might be something.
Yeah.
So I want them to play on that resurrection thing a bit. I'd like Mipha to come back to life, marry Link, have some adorable mermaid babies. Zelda can go off with Tingle or someone. I don't really care at this point. I just want Link and Mipha to have that happy ending. I think that's a really important story bit that I'd like.
That is not the story that anybody wants. Nobody wants that story. No, I was annoyed with that story arc when it was playing out. I was like, no, he's supposed to be with Zelda. I don't want to hear any of this nonsense. Like, no, we're not getting a love triangle here.
What if she goes with Prince Zordon or whatever the hell his name is?
Zelda?
Zelda ends up with handsome Prince Fishman. And
I'm going to say this. I got the vibe that Barbossa wanted with Zelda. Like, I got that vibe. Like, Barbossa was like, there was, like, she wanted, I was just like, oh, okay, we're doing this. We're going in. Yeah, but...
So my real fourth one.
Good Lord. I don't know whether you're serious. After the dog thing, I don't know whether you're serious now or not or whatever.
Well, it's sort of related to this. I do want them to flesh out some characters more. I liked the flashback bits. But where you could get them in any order last time kind of made sense for that game.
Yeah.
You were Link, you were regaining your memories. If there is a time jump, you have 5 years of memories. You've already kind of regained what you lost, the previous 100 years in the first game. Let's see a little bit more voice acting. Let's see a little bit more of a fleshed out, cohesive story rather than piecing together little bits and pieces. Whether it's a Zelda-focused story, a Link-focused story, a Hyrule-focused story, I want this to have a little bit more of a focused and directed kind of story with voice acting, with the whole thing. I just want this to be a production.
I'm with you 100. I'm gonna say it, I don't care. I want Link to have a voice finally. I want them to have cutscenes where he's actually talking to Zelda, and he's like, you see conversations between those two. Not this guy that just sits there, the strong silent. No, enough. Like, I want him talking to her, like, having some emotion or whatever. Like, I'm tired of Jay and Silent Bob. Like, we can do something a little different, It's like, she's talking and he's just kind of sitting there like, okay. I would love to see her and him having conversations where there is flashbacks where she's starting to jog his memory and bring him back to himself, because I want him to progress from what he was. Like you said, I want the storyline. I want the story to progress where he's like, hey, this went down. We did our thing and we got Hyrule back to what it's supposed to be. Now we're rebuilding Hyrule and all that such, and we're working together, and we're hanging out, we're getting to know each other better. Maybe there is some reminiscence back to the champions to kind of maybe tie up some of them loose storylines and or tighten them up a little bit. And because I felt like I'm with you, the cutscenes. When I watched the first cutscene play out, I lost it, and I was like, I need more of this, and I actually went hunting for cutscenes because I was like, I need them all. I need every single one. And sadly, though, they spoiled 90% of the cutscenes in the trailer. Yeah. And I was like, oh, man. Like, this would have been so much better to just play it out the way they did. You know what I mean? Like, you're just playing it and experiencing it raw. And they killed it. To me, they killed it at it. So, if you're going to do big, massive cutscenes, man, don't tell us nothing. Like, just back away a little bit.
Exactly.
Good. Okay, so let's jump into that for a second, though.
Sure.
So did you experience all the cutscenes in Breath of the Wild the first time?
Oh yeah, of course.
But did you do it? I talked to a bunch of people and I can't remember. Did you not complete them the first time when you beat Ganon and then you went back?
No, I'm pretty sure I went hunting for them, but I could have. I'm pretty sure now. I thought my memory could be failing. I
thought you got the one on the bridge in Hyrule Castle, and then you went to Ganon. You didn't go back to Impa.
Oh, that might have been true.
And then I think after you beat it, you were like, "That's kind of." And then you realized you found out that there was one you missed, and then you went back, did it, and then went back and beat Ganon again.
Yes, that is true.
And that's
you have a better memory than I do, man. It's for an old fella. You're pretty spry.
Listen, man, don't mess with the memory. I have some memories, man. It's only about people I love, though. That's all. It's But for me, I feel like that was probably the misstep of the storyline with Breath of the Wild, and that's something I wanted him to get away from. Yeah. Because if you, the truth of the matter is like you could have missed stuff. Yeah. And the other thing is if you're playing that game and you're not really truly paying attention to it, you're kind of just working your way through the world, and you're not triggering them, and you're not finding them, because that's a huge world, man. That's a huge world. It's very possible that you could miss one or two. I
remember most people had put well over 100 hours, beat the game, gone exploring, and I said something on a podcast I think I was doing with you about the bowling alley or the mini golf course.
I never even knew about it. Yeah.
And it was you gave me that reaction. My brother gave me that reaction. Other people I talked to were like, "What are you talking about?" It was like way up top, kind of left corner of the map, probably a space you haven't been in. It was when they released that DLC that you got to see your path. Yeah. All over the place, that people were like, "Oh, I see that dark area that you're talking about," and be like, "Yeah, that's where I went." So I think it's so easy to miss things in that game that this time I want just give me some story beats.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to lock me down too much, but at least give me something that I'm not going to miss.
It's funny because with Breath of the Wild 1, at that time, we were doing, I believe, the Gaming Gurus at the time. So me, Toby, and Sean were doing that show. And the three of us were all playing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And, or actually, you know what? I don't think we were at the time. But whatever. Like, I was talking to Sean on If We Were at Nintendo, talking to Toby, and then them two would kind of talk between the shows, kind of to each other, weirdly enough. And what was happening, and was really strange to me, was all three of us were playing the game, and just in different parts of the world, experiencing the game totally differently. And then what I did was, just recently, probably like a few months ago, like I was like, I'm going to start over. I'm just going to start over from scratch. But I'm going to purposely go, once I get off the plateau, I'm going to go a totally different way. And dude, I'm finding stuff that I didn't even know existed. And I was
Amazing.
like, where was this at? I didn't even see this the first time. And it's crazy, you know? And Toby did the same thing. That Toby went back, he started playing, he's like, Bobby, dude, I'm finding stuff that I didn't know existed, had no clue. And I think that is the impressive thing about that world. Mm-hmm. Is that they were able to hide stuff that you just don't even know exists, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I don't want that sense of wonder to go away.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. You know, I don't want this to be, you know, go down this hallway, defeat these 5 people, defeat a boss, go down this hallway. You know, I don't want that. I still want this to be an amazing experience. I'd love if they can kind of catch that same lightning in a bottle again that it made Breath of the Wild so special, and made it so I could talk to you and my brother and Sean and this person and that person and get completely different stories from everyone about where we were going. And that was part of the excitement of that game. But like, I do think they can rein it in a bit and tell a bit more of a directed story.
Yeah, I agree too. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is perhaps each time you go to a new town, that triggers a storyline. And maybe they all kind of, in the big picture, because that's how Breath of the Wild was. Like, you could hit this storyline and it didn't have to intertwine with that one. And, you know, you could do that where you walk into a town or you talk to someone in the town and it triggers something of a story, and it doesn't even, to be honest with you, it doesn't even have to be like a memory type thing. It could be you walk in, it triggers something, and then you watch a cinematic play out in front of you. You know, there's no reason that says they can't do a cinematic that's present day. I mean, they do it all the time in video games, so why can't you do, like, take a Last of Us type approach where you play the game for a bit, and then boom, you walk into this area, and then boom, it triggers this cutscene. Or maybe after you defeat a major boss, it triggers a cutscene. You know, they could do things to make it more randomized, but still cohesive, and still, like, you don't have to randomly walk into this forest and stumble upon a memory.
I mean, what if one of the things is, in order to rescue, let's say in this case, rescue Link, Zelda has to go around and unite the kingdoms, something like that, right? So you're doing the Avatar, the Aquaman thing, where you're going around to the different kingdoms, and each time you walk in, there's a cutscene there. So there's a cutscene for the Zora. There's a cutscene for, the Death Mountain when you walk up there, and you're recruiting all these different factions and different people. And who knows if it's a 5, 10, 15 year time jump, maybe there's a little civil war going on within Hyrule of, you know, these people against these people, the fish people hate the bird people, and whatever is going on. Right. So you have to unite them, and you can trigger those out of context, and it's whoever you arrive at first, you trigger their scene, and it still just builds that story, right? But without having to find obscure little memory bits.
No, I'm with you, and that would be, because that to me was probably my favorite part of Breath of the Wild. One of my favorite parts was just unlocking those memories and experiencing that story. And so I want more of that, you know, because we had never really got that from Zelda games in the past. We never got them massive cutscenes where you see these spectacular things played out with amazing voice acting. Like, that was the moment for me where I was just like, this voice acting is amazing. It just needs to be cherished. Like, I loved I loved it, man. I loved it as well, like being able to play it in Japanese or the voice acting in Japanese, but read the text, like the subtitles are in English. Like I feel like that was such an amazing thing that they were able to do. That as well, I want to come back. I want them to be able to, play this game and play it in Japanese or play it in whatever English. You can play it in proper English or the Queen's English, as you would say, or you could play in Donald Trump's English, and you could, everything would be amazing.
Everyone in Breath of the Wild 2. This is my final thing that I want. Yes. New York accents. Everyone in the game just talks like you. Gets that little
like me. Thanks.
Yeah, that kind of like Jersey, New York, whatever. Like, hey Zelda, what are we gonna do over here? That's Link's first voice, by the way.
That would be. I would sign up for that. I would play. I would.
Zelda, we got these bokoblins over here. We gotta bash him over the freaking head.
I would pay double for that. I'd pay $100 for that game. I'd pay $200 for that game. That would be amazing. Oh my god!
I like the new haircut, but you're no Princess Mifa. I'll tell you that much.
You and Mifa, you need to stop that nonsense. You are a hateful son of a bee. Okay, what is your fun? When we get done, I want to do this voice for you, just you. I'm not gonna do it in here because I had a pitch to Joseph Moran to do a show together about New Jersey, and I called him up randomly. I just called him, and he didn't answer, and I started rattling off in this voice, and I would like do this thing, and I'm like, "That's the show. That's the name of the show. There you go." And he's like, he never called me back. He never texted back. He never called back. He ignored me. And then one day we're on a stream, and he brings it up, and I'm like, "Dude, I pitched the show, and you didn't even acknowledge it." He goes, "That's not gonna work. That's not gonna be." I was like, "Okay." So anyway,
yeah.
What's your
we've
final?
Been for number 5. We've been hinting at this, I think, as we went on. As much as the first thing I said, I want them to flesh out a lot of the world with petting the dogs and doing those little tiny things.
Yeah.
But most of the other things that we've talked about are kind of scaling it back, and that is what I want. Yeah. A scaled back kind of story in a sense. I want them again to focus more on a story. I want them. You can still explore and do whatever, but to have something a little bit scaled back, maybe in size, maybe shrink the map a tiny little bit. If that means that the game runs smoother. Now maybe just more development time with the Switch would do that, but I know we got the patch to make it run a bit smoother after the game was launched, but I'd like this game to show off exactly the strengths of the Switch and not have a big showcase game 3 or 4 years into the life cycle of the Switch have slowdown and have all those issues that we saw with the first Breath of the Wild that, again, were one of those little things that you're running through a field and the grass is blowing and then it slows down to 6 frames a second and you're like, shit, took me right out of the experience. And, I want them to focus. And if that means scaling the game down, if that means pulling back on certain things, maybe even not petting the dogs, I don't know. But focus on it to make the game run nice and smooth.
See, I don't think they need to scale back at all. I feel like because they made that one change, it was a Wi-Fi thing, and it fixed it. It fixed the slowdown. Because I mean, listen, when you go to the forest, it's bad in there. It's still kind of a little wonky in there. But it used to be that wonky when you would go through a field. And like you said, you hit high grass. That's done now. You can run through the grass. You can do, and nothing happens. There's no slowdown. So for me, I feel like they have 2 advantages here. One, I don't believe this game is coming out next year, but we'll get into that in a minute. I feel like, and even if it is coming next year, I feel like we probably will have a Pro at that point. And if that's the case, then I feel like that's going to fix a lot of the issues we ran into on that. But I too would like them to just make this. You also got to remember too with this one, this wasn't a Switch game. This was a Wii U game.
Right, it's a Wii U port.
Which, if you take this game, you play it on the Wii U, my God, I can't believe that game was what actually was being pushed out. Like, that is crazy to think that was playing on the Wii. And I talked to TJ Santula. I don't know if you know TJ. He does custom amiibos. And he does a lot of stuff for Nintendo Wire. And he does, like, Smash Supremacy and all that stuff.
All right. Yep.
The dude's amazing. And when I was talking to him, he's like, I played Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. And I was like, really? And he's like, yes. He's like, they built that game for the Wii U. I wanted to experience on the Wii U. And he was like, I liked it better on the Wii U. Because he said, which I didn't even dawn on me, you had the map in your hands the entire time. So as you're playing, you're experiencing it, and then you could click a button, you would have all your items there as well. So everything was kind of real fluid, the way that game was built for the Wii U. So I would like them to be able to go like, hey, we're going to take advantage of what the Switch can do and fine-tune some stuff and do all this. Yeah. So with that, I don't want to end it yet because I have a couple questions that I want to just bounce out off you and see what you think here. I referenced it already. I don't believe this game comes out next year. What do you think is the true timetable of what people can expect, or what are you at least expecting in your mind of a launch window for this?
Playable demo next E3, launch as early as spring 2021, as late as fall 2021.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there with you. I feel like it's not a 2020 game at all.
Oh, God, no.
And, I mean, it could be. We don't know, because we don't know how long they've been working on this. That's number one. And number two, Majora's Mask was a 1-year turnaround.
That's true. Like, we don't know how grand they're going. Yes. If they follow some of our examples here, I think that's a much longer build. If they do that kind of Majora's Mask turnaround, maybe we will see this fall 2020. Who knows? That'd be a surprise to me. But I'm really banking on 2021.
I don't want it fall 2020. I want them to give us their best game. Yeah. Now, there are people that will come after me because I don't believe that Majora's Mask is the greatest game ever, the greatest in the franchise, any of that. And yes, they did do a 1-year turnaround, but that game was not a true Zelda game. That game was kind of like a scaled down version of Ocarina. They took the assets, they put it all together, but like you were basically living in this quick 3-day window or whatever it was, and that was different, So this is, I want it to be the grander scheme. I want the big cutscenes. I want everything to be there. So to me, if they don't even launch it till 2022, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't believe they're going to. I believe it is a 2021 game, but I'm okay with whatever they say they're doing with this one because I want it to be right. I want it to be, spot on and be the best game that they give us. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Is there anything in your mind that you're thinking? Let me back that out because I don't want that question. I want this question. I threw at you originally the idea of one of them being passed out and asleep and playing as the other. If I didn't throw that out there, ultimately, what's Mark's idea of what do you do with these two characters? How do they play out? What are the mechanics that they offer in this game? Like, what is your ideal way? Like, this is how I'm playing this game, and this is what the game will be. What's in your mind's eye?
The thing that I came up with, number 2, I had written down, play as Zelda. That is what I wrote down. Okay. I would be perfectly okay not playing as Link at all, and going through with following Zelda through this story. Like you said, the Breath of the Wild and so many of these other games have been legends of Zelda. Let's let her write her own.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you is, I get that, and I respect that. Right. My question is, where's Link in all this?
I think kind of like you already said, he's asleep. He's put under a curse. He's done something where maybe Ganondorf drained his life force. When you see, I think it's Link. It looks like in the trailer, touch something and it's grabbing onto his hand. maybe that's draining his life force. Maybe he's in some sort of stasis, comatose kind of state, and it's up to Zelda to go out, defeat Ganondorf, get Link's life force back, and use her skills and train up as a Sheikah to do that. So you're kind of, in Breath of the Wild, you were getting your weapons, you were getting your strength back. In this one, you're learning how to be a better warrior. You're going through, you're kind of, learning those skills. You're becoming Sheik, basically. And by the end of it, you're Sheik. You take off against Ganondorf, and you get Link's life force back.
Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there for argument's sake, and I'm just curious what your mindset would be. What if this was an Uncharted type game or a Last of Us type game where you're playing as whatever character they throw you in at the moment? Now, don't get me wrong. Uncharted, Last of Us is very lineal.
Yeah.
And they're basically leading you down a path in a certain direction the entire game. This is open world, so you're going wherever. But how would you feel if, like, if you choose to be Zelda, and then Link is kind of like your tag along buddy, kind of like how Wolf Link was, where he follows you around, he'll help you combat and fight, and then, like, if you wanted to switch over to Link, you could switch to Link, and then Zelda is the thing. Like, does that interest you at all, or no?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I could get on board with that as long as I think in a linear story, that's why we're still seeing those kind of games done in a linear fashion, is because it's easier to control an AI character in a linear sense. It's way harder to have a smart, well-controlled AI person follow you. So unless they have some sort of a way to cheat that, maybe if they can use their slates to teleport. So if you climb up a mountain, the other one's just kind of waiting there for you or something. Or there's some sort of weird tethering mechanic where, as long you two are kind of tethered together by your Sheikah slates or something like that. So you get to the top of the mountain, you press something on your slate, she presses something on her slate, and she beams up to you. If there's something like that, I could see it working, but I don't want dumb AI hanging me up and being like, come over here, help me fight. And she's off picking flowers, or Link's off trying to catch a wild boar or something. And you're like, okay, there's 100 bokoblins here. Like, let's, give me a hand. So yes, as long as it's done well, which I'm sure they would. I'm sure if any company is going to figure that out, it's Nintendo, and it's this team, the Breath of the Wild team, that really kind of rewrote open world games. I think they could rewrite, AI buddy games. But we'll see. We'll see on that.
When you hear come out of E3, Aonuma say that he got his ideas for this game from Red Dead Redemption 2. What does Mark think when he hears that quote?
Hopefully more focus on story. Is what I'm thinking. Is the Red Dead, I never played Red Dead 2, so I don't know, but from everything I heard, it was very slowly paced. There were definitely some travel issues and some issues with feeling like when you traveled, the task was menial, and then you had a long travel back. So I'm hoping they take the good parts of Red Dead 2 and that would be the story, right? This band of characters that you get to know them all, you get to see where they're going, and you're invested in it, right? By the end of it. Sorry if that's loud. My dog's scratching right next to me, like right there. So yeah, I think if they're taking something from there, it's Red Dead storytelling, and I think Breath of the Wild, again, we've mentioned this with more storytelling, more voice acting. That's fantastic. That's a good game to take some stuff away from, as long as you're taking the right stuff away.
Exactly. And listen, they said previously, like, people were like, oh, Nintendo ripped off Dark Souls, and that's when the Dark Souls guys came out and were like, listen, people have been ripping Nintendo off for years, including us. It's okay.
Exactly.
So it would be kind of cool. It's interesting to me because it's probably the first time we ever heard Nintendo acknowledge other companies make games.
Yeah, that was really surprising.
Yeah, they never do that. Like there was a time, and you can vouch for this because I think you and I had conversations about this at one point. Like there was a time where Nintendo was like, we don't play other companies' games.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what other companies are doing. So to hear that come out, that like, hey, we're doing our thing, and we like what they did in Red Dead. I was just floored by that comment.
Especially being a Western developer.
Yes.
I could see it if they said, we love what Square's doing with Final Fantasy. Yeah. We think the Final Fantasy VII remake from what we've seen has been spectacular. We can't wait to play it. Something like that, I'd be like, ooh, that's different. Yeah. But I'd understand it. A Western developer, and they're crazy, quoting that and saying they're learning from it or whatever. It's like, whew, this is a new Nintendo.
Let's be fair. I think since the Switch came on the scene, they've shown we're a different company. I mean, like we are. I mean, we starting to change our ways a little bit with some stuff.
Yeah, they're learning from Red Dead. Bowser's, heading up the company. This is all crazy times.
It's crazy times. So I think that's pretty much it. That's all we have today. Mark, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of this. This was very special to me to do this, and it was definitely important for me to have you be a part of this because
happy.
I've you and I have had great conversations about Zelda in the past. I think you, Donnie, and I did a spoiler cast a couple years ago, and it was probably one of the best conversations I had about Zelda, which, by the way, Donnie is actually on tomorrow. And so it's kind of cool. So I have you first, and then I have Toby first, then you, and then Donnie, which everything will air next week. But that's irrelevant. But yeah, it was important for me to have you be a part of this, and I'm so happy that we were able to line up and make it happen and all that. So real quickly before we wrap up, please once again tell people where they can find you at and follow you at and all that stuff.
At CaNERDian Gamer on Twitter. You can follow me bi-weekly on the Secret Friends Unite podcast feed. So subscribe to them. You get the Secret Friends Unite regular podcast and co-op mode, which is what I'm part of. And we have a lot of fun, Todd and I, every week there. He is currently having fun in Florida, so I'm a little bit jealous of him, but I'm super happy to be on here. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was a blast. I'm always happy to talk to you and do projects with you and all that kind of stuff. And this is fun stuff. And don't forget to pet the dogs.
And we'll be doing more of this as months go on. I'll bring you back and all that stuff because this is something I'm very excited to be doing. Again, thank everybody for listening to this show. If you're listening on iTunes or whatever your podcast of choice is, please rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. That would be amazing if you could. If you're watching the video version over on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, please. I beg of thee. And follow me, Instagram, Twitter, at Nintendo Gurus. With that, peace out, Preston.